Welcome to the No Script Show, where we're keeping you company through the next 2 months of pre-election insanity. Welcome.
and Roman is present. Wait, no, that's not my line.
Somebody has been listening. Oh, so you're one of the 300 racists who listen to the Renegade Report, aren't you?
Yeah. It's just 300 racists.
Dude, that's a meme. That's a fucking meme. I'm actually, Roman, if you're listening, that's going on the next t-shirt, okay? Like, we absolutely need this.
Renegade Report, 300 racists.
But like done in the style of 300 the movie with like the red and the blood.
Maybe like Photoshop Roman's face onto like Leonidas or something. It's just 300 racists.
Please, Internet, if I can ask you nicely, please let's do Renegade Report and 300 crossover memes because it sounds like we need it.
Yes. And we can like Photoshop, I don't know, like fucking ENCA on the face of Xerxes or something. I don't know. Like just that would be so good. I need that in my life.
Dude. So anyway, among other things, I guess I have managed to convince myself never to work with the marketing department of that company, whose chief strategy officer picks a fight on Twitter with the Renegade Report. Good job. I saw recently, and congrats, in local iTunes podcasting, Renegade Report came up second, above News 24's political podcast, which is quite funny.
So what you're saying is there are less than 300 non-racists.
Yeah, I think the entire country is 600 people, and they only listen to 2 podcasts. That's actually what's happening. Oh, my God. So 2 months to elections, and then just today, everyone's kind of doing their manifesto launches. So it's like this, the timeline's full of it today, so I'm ignoring it.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the only good thing left in the DA is probably Herman Mashaba and Solim Samang.
My favorite thing, though, about Herman Mashaba is that the DA doesn't like him that much.
Yeah, that's quite evident.
He's been called back to head office. Like, he's been like a naughty boy seeing the principal. Like, he's been called back a couple times for the DA to kind of just... And it's just like, yeah, good job. I don't know anymore. I'm just sort of like, it's 2 months away, it's fine. I'll just keep carrying on.
It could be worse. It could be the American election cycle, which is next year.
No, it's not. The American election cycle never ends. There was a point where it was like election season and then not election season, and we're now at the point where every day is election season.
Because, this is true. This is true.
Constantly. So it never ends.
Well, I mean, like, okay, look at it this way. I think the DA at this point is like the American Democrats. They're both just consistently stepping on rakes. Like, I don't know if you like. I hate to swivel the conversation, but I don't know if you've noticed, but the Democrats have gotten really fucking anti-Semitic lately. Like super anti-Semitic.
Honest to God, I have only seen the memes and
it's
tell us
their Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the former Somali lady who refugee. I think she's the representative of Michigan, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So well done, Michigan. Also, shout out to Glassman on Twitter. Sorry, your representative is kind of a jerk. But yeah, she's like super anti-Semitic. And the funny thing about it is the Democrats have now got this whole thing of the fresh faces of Congress, as Ben Shapiro puts it. They're like the fresh new faces. So whenever AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib says anything wrong or bad, they will go full mental gymnastics to try spin it as a good thing. Like the fresh faces, so fresh, so face, cannot do anything wrong.
Wasn't there like a thing where like AOC's campaign funding, they found some like thing on the side where money was laundered through one of her associates, and then her defense was that she was new at this, like, she didn't know the rules. And I'm like, that's never a defense for holding one of the highest offices in the country. You can't say, I'm new to this. That's why there's other people there to tell you what the rules are. But
exactly.
Anyway, I actually have a question. I don't know exactly what was said on the anti-Semitic thing, and all I've seen is the Twitter blowups of it. But how is this still a special category? Because there's there's racism and anti whatevers of all types, but it's almost like being anti-Semite is a unique category almost. Like it's defended like it's unique from just being anti-Muslim, for instance. Do we have any idea why that is? It just seems to me
That
like it's
I honestly don't know. Maybe because I suspect because it's been a political talking point for so long that it gets
that's true.
its own category.
Yeah, no, I guess that makes sense because it's just, I mean, I got into, okay, I keep getting into arguments about things. It's not like I'm trying to get into an argument, but sometimes people are wrong and I ask them to explain themselves and that upsets them and then it becomes an argument. That happens quite a few times.
Hold on, honey. Somebody's wrong on the internet, so I need
It's
to.
it's not even that. Like literally, it's like someone says something. I'm like, that's interesting. How did you get to that conclusion? And then they start attacking me. It's like, okay, well, maybe you didn't think this through. Um, but one of them was just it's interesting to me that the Nazis are the default bad guys for the Americans, right? Like,
Right.
and there was a point where they weren't, and then the World War happened, and then they were. But it's almost
Right.
like they've sort of people have grown up. I mean, from the earliest Tom and Jerry cartoons and like post-war propaganda, which Tom and Jerry, an interesting fact, when Walt Disney drew that, there was actually an element of anti-German propaganda built into Tom and Jerry. Just FYI.
Yes.
In case you
Yes.
thought it was just a kids' cartoon, it's never just a kids' cartoon, never. But anyway,
It's never. I mean, their names. Look, Tom and Jerry, as in Jerry, as in the slander for the Germans,
yeah,
and Tom, the
yeah, and
Tommies, the British soldiers.
yeah, that plus in every episode, no matter how elaborate the scheme, the cat always loses, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, but anyway, um, it became this thing where Nazis were the default bad guy. They were like the bad guys in all of the major movies, all the major games. Like it's sort of like the whole culture just passively accepted the fact that Nazis are inherently bad forever. It's okay to beat them up because they're the bad guys. And that's been so ingrained through popular culture that now the president gets elected and there's like how many actual white supremacists? Like less than 1,000, like some small number.
I think yeah, like you could hire like a lecture hall and fit all the actual white supremacists in there. Like
Exactly. And they won't have a shred of hair between them, in that stereotype. But it was interesting to me because it's like you've got this, it's like this whole culture was primed to hate Nazis, because just for years and years and years, whenever there was a bad guy, it was a Nazi, and Nazi was the worst thing you could call someone. And now it's like all the actual Nazis are dead. Like there was an article like 2 years ago about the last Auschwitz concentration camp security guard died, and then that was it. Like there's nobody left. Yet somehow the meme doesn't die. And it's like, they use that whole Nazi label to justify treating other people badly. And I look at that and I go, but in the same vein, anti-Semitism has its whole own special category in the culture. And it's almost as if nobody has actually processed the Second World War. It's like, it keeps going. We're still fighting the same ideological battles as back then. That's kind of what it looks like to me. It's just part of the culture now.
I think it's that because it's like you said, it's part of the culture. It's something that the Second World War is something that is sort of, I hate to use the term, penetrated human consciousness for so long now that like on every level there's just so much to unpack about the Second World War in terms of technological progress, political changes, ideological battles, actual combat. I mean, a lot of the modern combat strategies used by militaries today were honed in the Second World War. I mean, they sort of started them in the first, but the Second World War cemented sort of, for example, basic infantry squad tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that, and then there's, of course, as the History Channel tells us, the million,
aliens, aliens.
The million occult and ancient alien stuff that the Nazis did. So the Second World War is just like a jump point for everything, and that's why it's still up.
But it's weird. It's like that was almost, and this is probably dark humor, and I'll acknowledge that. It's almost as if World War II was the first thing that brought us all together as a people, because It was the war that everyone in some fashion participated in. Everyone was affected. Didn't that lead to the creation of the UN? I don't know if I have my dates wrong, or was it the first
Yes,
and
I
second?
mean, look around then because the precursor to the UN, the
League of
League of
Nations,
Nations,
yes.
was made after the First World War, and then that crumbled pretty quickly, and
Yep.
then the UN was the first was the sort of successor version that was properly actually cemented as an organization,
Yeah.
which I have conflicting opinions about
No,
as to its efficacy and its pointlessness, but yeah.
I'm sure, but it's almost like, I mean, before that, we didn't really have a concept of any kind of world government, right? Like it was a thing in science fiction novels. It wasn't actually a real thing until we went to a war that affected all of us, and now we have the UN, which is not a world government, but it's the closest thing we've got. And you can kind of see that if World War III kicks off, the survivors are going to upgrade the UN to be an actual world government, because at that point it's like, okay, we have to regulate the world's militaries, and the only way to do that is to have a stronger military than the rest of the world. Ta-da, world government. So that's after World War III. Just calling it now in case the bombs start falling at any point.
And remember, we called it last week or the week before that South Africa is going to be a critical, contentious battleground for World War III. It's going to be a critical battle point.
Yeah.
South Africa, yeah.
Or they'll just nuke it from orbit. Who knows?
Here's my thing. Unpopular opinion. Everyone's like, World War III is going to be World War IV is going to be fought with sticks and stones because of World War III.
No.
I don't think World War III will be nuclear. It's just too much cool tech that the scientists and the military guys haven't had a chance to really use. That isn't nuclear. That they're like, why would I nuke you? And I can use all this cool ass tech. And that's just the stuff we know about. Yes, I'm going full Alex Jones, by the way. That's just the stuff we know about. Okay.
Making the frogs gay.
Did you see him on the Joe Rogan show? It was amazing.
Oh my God. I didn't. All I saw was that little clip where he's like, you know what? I'm kind of retarded. And I laughed my ass off and then moved on.
Dude, that's like an hour into this. It's like a 4-hour. It's like, holy crap, man. He's like, the shit Alex Jones goes into. It's amazing, dude. It's just so good.
I might take time out and watch that, because it's like, I want to see that one. And I also want to see the one they did with Tim Pool, Jack Dorsey, and the trust and safety woman from Twitter. I forgot.
Yeah, Vijay Gandhi.
Yeah. So
Vijay Gandhi. Low key, though, I know it's inappropriate, but she's kind of fine. Low key.
I'm sure she knows that. I'm sure she knows that. She is probably the reason why they have rules against dick pics on Twitter, okay? Like, I'm sure she's aware of her situation. But I want to see that because, for one thing, Jack Dorsey is kind of a shit CEO. I know that by saying that, I've opted out of ever being employed by Twitter, but I'm fine with that because they've done more to destroy people's lives than anyone else, so I'm cool. He's kind of a shit CEO.
But now we're never going to get our blue check marks.
I'm totally fine with that.
We'll never be monetized on podcasts and we'll never have blue check marks. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. We're the new underground. That's what's happening here. No, no, but the reason I say he's kind of a shit CEO is that he doesn't actually seem to set any direction for the business, and like he'll talk with a kind of fake intellectualism that makes it sound like he's very experienced, but when you get down to how to actually run Twitter, he doesn't seem to have any answers, and so Twitter has kind of just lumbered on without any real advancement. And so I actually want to see him in an environment with somebody like Tim Pool, who asks difficult questions. That's actually the only reason I want to see this.
Dude, I'm mostly through that podcast. It is brutal. Like, Tim Pool just goes in on there, like, just...
And it's not even that hard. Like, it's just like, you know, I don't know. I want to watch it because what I really want to hear is the justification they have for building a platform that is essentially designed for concentrating and weaponizing trolling to knock people off the platform and to completely damage their careers and their lives. I want to see him justify why that's a good model, because it's not, and it should have been changed ages ago. You know, the best model that I saw, which is unfortunate because it's dead now, was Google's concept of circles. That was the smartest thing I've seen in forums for a long time. The ability, because it actually recognized that you will have a circle with your work people and then your home people and your friends and your BDSM club, whatever. But then it was easy to
Dude, don't call me out.
Hey, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. But it's like, the point was then when you shared stuff, you could pick the circles that it was relevant to. And that simple mechanic meant that it was impossible for millions of strangers to just blast you with notifications and DMs and stuff to completely wreck your shit. So it's like, I want him to explain why this is a good model that they have right now, because it isn't. I don't know how. But anyway.
I won't spoil it for you, but he attempts to and fails to justify it.
Perfect. Okay, don't spoil it.
Fails to in spectacular fashion. So
that's well done,
Jack. You've done St. Louis, Missouri proud. Did you not? That's actually where he's from.
I didn't need to know that, but now I do. Thanks.
Yeah. No, because Tim Pool at one point, this isn't a spoiler, he's like, yeah, but you're so out of touch with Middle America, and you're like, and he tries to sort of justify himself as being Middle American by saying, well, I am from Middle America, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm like, Jack, when was the last time you were anywhere near your folks' place? Like, let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest. That would be like me saying, I'm from Joburg.
Yeah.
The last time, okay, sometimes I work there, but the last time I was ever in Joburg for any significant amount of time, like,
years ago,
come on.
Yeah. I saw a tweet once where he kind of spoke about how he had gone for some multi-day length silent retreat with his wife. And I'm like, A, that's the most hippie shit I've seen a CEO do. And also B, could you not just have stayed there? Like, did you have to come back to work? You could have just stayed there.
Like the ANC going to Venezuela. Just stay there, please.
Yeah. Although, what is, I guess, interesting, in their formative years, Twitter had a very strong free speech component, and that was actually a good thing.
Oh yeah, like early Twitter was wild. People were like tweeting how to make crack cocaine in your fucking microwave on early Twitter.
There were drug dealers DMing each other on Twitter with their clients and shit. It probably still is the case.
It's a wild west.
Yeah, and the thing is, that was all before it became mainstream political. The moment people started using it for politics, that's when it all started going downhill, and then it just kept getting worse. When, like, was it 4chan that? No, I think it was Reddit, because Reddit, one of those two, I keep forgetting. It was 4chan. They started changing the rules around anonymity, and so a bunch of the 4chan dorks ended up on Twitter, and so now all of a sudden, that cauldron got set alight with Gamergate, and now we're living in a post-Gamergate world where Twitter is basically a toxic garbage fire that sometimes you get like a cool meme, but mostly it's shit. So I'm what I really miss, and this is, I think, probably the big thing, I miss a large online community that is absent any politics. I miss that so much. I had those growing up. They're gone. I want them back. Like, just, I don't know if it's just me. Like a gaming forum where you talk about games, and not every third post is about, someone retconning a gay character or something about the diversity in a game.
I'm so tired of it.
I know. And
or just like series, I don't watch like series like Jessica Jones and The Punisher and all that. Like, apparently there's like a villain in The Punisher now who's like a white alt-righter or whatever. I'm like, please, can we just watch series?
And it's cool. And like, you know what? Have the alt-white writer, have the Nazi who was thrown forward in time 100 years. Have those people, if they're good characters in the story that add something that makes it worth watching. Not just to make a point. Like, then it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like...
No, it's like recently I've been watching old, I started watching the old Stargate series again, and like the old Futurama, and it's really obvious that these shows, sure, they borrowed some elements from the real world, but they weren't trying to make a point. Like the whole arc of Stargate SG-1, there's this evil oppressive force in the galaxy and the upstart band of humans that liberates everyone else in the galaxy. And it's like, they did that without ever referencing American military overreach or, the inherent racism or whatever. It was just like, this is just a cool sci-fi story. Today, you will not see that. Every sci-fi story has some kind of, political side to it. And it's just like, we've lost that now. So...
yeah.
Sorry, you can tell again I am upset about this.
Well, I mean, you and Karima Brown are probably the two most upset people on Twitter right now.
She edited. Oh my god, that was amazing.
Okay, explain this for everyone and for our non-South African or non-political friends.
All right, so WhatsApp is a big thing in South Africa, to the point where political groups and media houses use it to coordinate stuff, which is kind of terrifying, but okay. She accidentally doxed herself when she posted a message to the EFF group that was meant to go to a journalism group, and then the EFF rep tweeted it with her phone number active, and they accused her of spying on the EFF. So the thing that she said was, look at the people who show up and see how many of them are elders, or something like that. It was something completely harmless, and then the EFF accused her of spying. That's the first thing I want to talk about, because it's bullshit. Because
explain the EFF to non-South Africans, though. They're like the friendly group of socialist black supremacists.
Yeah, it's like Hitler, but for black people. And then you think I'm being funny, but I'm not. Like, the stuff they say is very close to that. And this just, it was a cascade of hilarity. So she was instructing her people in the room to do something. And the fact that they were going to be in the room with the EFF meant that it was an invite event where everyone knew who everyone was. So for the EFF to accuse her of spying is ridiculous. You know, look for people at the event is not spying. That's just doing your job. But then, because her number went public, she got like lots of people WhatsApping her all sorts of horrendous shit. That became doxing. That became this huge thing that got condemned. Like SANEF suddenly got involved, and you know, it's like,
it's funny how suddenly journalists just care about shit again. You know, like journalists in South Africa. Like you didn't care about the EFF when you were like in bed with them. Journalists, it's just
like that whole Adrian Basson sob story. You know, Malema used to call me with tips, and then he called me white rubbish, and now it's over. And I'm like, dude, what did you think was going to happen?
It's like watching a teenage breakup on the internet. Like Adrian Basson's like the forlorn teenage girl. He's like,
oh my god. But anyway, no, and it's true, and people have like there has been like pushback to that where people have said, you know, it's a little bit weird that, and to be fair, SANEF is a organization. It's an editors forum. Obviously, they're going to put journalists first. That makes complete sense. But it's a bit weird that they care so much about the journalists being protected without giving any thought as to what the journalists are actually publishing and what they're doing to the media landscape. Like, sure, you protected class of citizens, cool. But then don't use that as your personal platform to wage your own battles. And that was the thing. So Karima Brown got some stuff sent to her. Some of it I thought was actually quite funny. Some of it was just straight up disturbed. All of it, to me, as an internet citizen, it just looked like trolling. It looked like what 4chan would do, you know?
The thing that bugs me about this whole thing is that she's trying to sell it off as if she just got this cascade of abuse. And I know it's kind of uncaring to say this, but tough titty, you know, because honestly, like obviously I can't see all the abuse that was sent to her, but honestly, here's a comprehensive list of people who get more abuse than her on the internet. Literally everyone but her. I mean, even you and I, as insignificant as we are, I'm pretty sure you and I in our DMs or in our mentions get more abuse on average in a week than her. Like,
you know, and it's like one of the things which I thought was quite funny. So I think it was Farial published about, you know, how she was threatened with, you know, being skinned alive and then burned. And then the quote was from this guy talking about how the pink people took our land, and he wants to see the pink people like tear their skin off and see the smoke rising from their bodies, which I'm like, okay, it's kind of poetic. It's extremely disturbed. It's the kind of thing that I can see somebody with no time and nothing to do with their lives just harassing other people online, because those people do exist. But Karima Brown is not white. So it was like this horrible thing directed at a race which is not her. And then it was reported as if it was directed at her. And I'm like, okay, at this point, it is plain as day that you so-called journalists are not actually reporting the facts. You're reporting your interpretation of the facts, which is sometimes and more often than not incorrect. So it's like, and I'm like, okay, at this point, SANEF is just going to prove that they're a bit of a joke. But anyway, it's like I was saying, that this, to me, this didn't look like a coordinated EFF campaign. And to their credit, when she started accusing the EFF of, you know, Malema sent his trolls to harass her, and I'm like, no, he didn't.
I'm sorry. Yes.
No, he
I mean,
didn't.
it's just, yeah.
But then also, like, some of the EFF members shot back and it's like, first, oh, prove it, send us the screenshots. And then that didn't happen because obviously it didn't. But then the other thing was, how do you know they're members? Have you verified their membership? And I'm like, that's a good point. You can't say that these people are EFF members if you don't know that they're EFF members. To just assume that it's them is a whole... Because I looked at it, and to me, that's the sort of shit that happens when your contact details end up on some darknet forum somewhere and a bunch of people with nothing better to do will send you disturbing shit because it's fun for them. I would like to welcome Karima Brown and everyone else in the media landscape to trolling. It's 2019, fucking get with it. This has been this way for decades now, okay? Like, this is just a thing that happens. It sucks, but it happens. It is not a targeted political effort. It is not Bell Pottinger 2.0. It's just trolling. It's just antisocial people with internet devices. That's all the fuck it is. These people are in no position to do anything else to you. But anyway, yeah, that's my rant on the Karima Brown situation.
Yeah, the only thing that, between that and, I don't know if you saw this, what's his name, Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, testifying, that was also pretty entertaining.
No, what did he do?
Oh, precisely nothing. Like his grand confession brought about nothing, absolutely nothing. Like, he's like, Mr. Trump's a racist. I reject being, having been associated with him. He's a racist. He's this and this. All right, cool, fine. And the Democrats are sitting there pleased as punch. And here's the thing about that. Nobody believes you, Michael Cohen, because it's A, all hearsay, and B, you were 100% fine with being his despicable go-to man for like decades, and now suddenly he's this. And this is what annoys me about the current political situation of the US. No matter who you are or what you did before, the instant you toe line and become anti-Trump, all of that just washes away. Just poof, you're suddenly this brave new hero. Like, it's like with John McCain when they were like, I mean, not to speak ill of the dead, but John McCain when they're like, oh, he's terrible. Suddenly he starts going against Trump. John McCain is actually a brave guy. I'm like, are you kidding me? So, I'm old enough to remember when you guys had none of these opinions about people.
No, and oh my god, so it's like a religious crusade at this point. I mean, it's like I heard okay, not brilliant, but I learned a new term this week, struggle session, which, as it turns out, is not a euphemism for rape. Instead, it is...
Oh, thank you for keeping us demonetized.
A struggle session was a thing in, like, Maoist China, where people were kind of accused of crimes they didn't commit, and they had to publicly confess sins that they never partook in to kind of culturally purify themselves, and show fealty to the dominant power. And it's like, I've seen that sort of thing in like dystopian sci-fi before, but I didn't know it was actually called a struggle session. There was a journalist who published some white woman journalist who published a thing in some medical journal about basically nothing, like just telling everyone that she's a racist, we're all racist, we all have to apologize, something like that. And then Claire Lemon of Quillette retweeted that and said, okay, so now these journals are carrying struggle sessions. I was like, that's the first time I've seen this in quite a while. And so I had to look it up. But it's kind of like that. Once you sort of say the right things and pledge allegiance to the right people and apologize for things, even if you didn't do them, you immediately earn favor with these other people who are purely ideological. It's not about the facts anymore. It's about how you feel about them. So that's just, it's ridiculous, because you're right. How can you be Trump's lawyer forever and then like you're just like, oh, BTW, Trump and I aren't BFFs anymore, now suddenly you're a hero? What?
I'm old enough. It's insane to me that people are, I don't know, like just forgetting like all that shit, just suddenly, just okay.
Short-term memories, yeah.
Yeah. Between that and Hillary Clinton announcing she's not running for president in 2020, like, thank you, Hillary. We needed that announcement.
Oh my God, yeah.
So she's the one Democrat in America not running for president.
Well, for now, but I'm sure they'll reanimate her and stick her back on the podium if the polls start slipping.
Wow, there must always be a Clinton running for president, Game of Thrones style.
Exactly. Otherwise, there wouldn't be American politics. I mean, what is American politics without the Clinton family? They've been there forever. You know?
Between the Clintons, the Bushes, and the Kennedys, that's like the closest the Americans have to actual royal families.
Yeah. And so we kind of always have to have them. Like, maybe the reason Hillary's not running, I mean, what's her daughter, Chelsea Clinton? Won't she be old enough to run in like a
Yeah,
couple
she's
years?
old enough. She did allude to being interested in running for it. By the way, I love her quote. Like she left when she quotes the other day. I left the church because I didn't agree with their stance on being pro-life when I was 6 or 8. I'm like, really? That's what you were thinking about when you were 6 or 8? Because when I was 6 or 8, I was wondering, okay, when can I be done with prayer so I can go watch Saturday afternoon cartoons? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, the problem is right now is that I'm picturing a young Chelsea Clinton in a Hillary Clinton like mom suit on stage, like just fashion from like the late 40s. That's kind of because what I really want to happen in the 2020 elections, I want fashion to come full circle. I want to see penguin suits and top hats and cigars. That's what I want to see.
No. Even better. Here's the thing. Forget Trump 2020. Well, actually, Trump 2020, but Ivanka Trump versus her former BFF, Chelsea Clinton. Oh my God. That'll be like unbelievable. Because they used to be BFFs. I would literally pay pay-per-view rates to watch that election. That would be amazing. Like, it's just, yes.
Dude,
Like, hold on, Mr. Alien Landing. I need you to chill for a second. We're in the middle of something here. Like,
dude, you know what's really funny like about that? I'm sure that there are lots of people that would be very entertained by the spectacle, and it actually reminds me of the plot of an extremely stupid but James Bond movie back from the Pierce Brosnan days, Tomorrow Never Dies, and the whole plot was this guy that owned a news network wanted to start a war so he could report on it for ratings. And I'm
yes,
like,
I remember that.
and it's like, haha, what a ludicrous plot. Now it's 2020. I absolutely believe that like News Corp will shove somebody into office to compete and get ratings. Like I absolutely believe that's possible now.
That'd be amazing. I actually believe it as well. Like,
It's like, yeah. Because I mean, my God, that's just where we are now. It's like the reason everything feels fake is that it's all through the lens of like the news media. They sort of decide what reality is, and here we are.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm trying to think of anything technological that happened in the last week, and
Lots of cool tech stuff is happening right now. Actually, we've almost finished building the James Webb Telescope.
Okay.
Fingers crossed, which is going to be one of the biggest telescopes we've ever built. And I think I mentioned this to you offline, but we actually recently discovered that there was a Reddit article about it, actually. Yeah, it's the Earth's atmosphere actually goes past the moon. Pause, flat earthers. This doesn't mean we can breathe in space. This doesn't mean space and the moon landings were fake.
No. Disregard everything Odin says. You absolutely can breathe in space. Please launch yourselves into orbit with no oxygen. Do us all a favor. Carry on.
The geocorona is, let me find it. It's about 630,000 kilometers out from Earth.
Okay.
And to put that into perspective, that's like if the cloud around the Earth suddenly doubled in size, like the atmosphere around the Earth suddenly doubled in size. Now, the reason this matters is because a lot of our ground-based and all our space-based telescopes now need to readjust because how space exploration or space discovery works with telescopes is that you take in the data, but that data has to be adjusted for knowing things like atmospheric lensing and things like that. Now, because we know that this atmosphere is there, we can suddenly readjust. Again, pause. This doesn't mean that we will suddenly discover that the aliens were there all along. People, chill, relax. We'll probably find nothing, or we could find some cool new things. But the reason it's important is that we can now go back and readjust our data so that we can see things more clearly out there.
Cool. So will any of these telescopes be able to see space vampires?
Well, the only other space telescope that would probably make you see anything in space would be one that's being proposed now. I'm going to mispronounce the spelling, the name, but it's called LUVOIR. LUVOIR. It's French. Who cares? It's French. It's like a large ultraviolet infrared something's radio telescope,
Okay.
and it's, to put it in perspective, it is a telescope so big that we're proposing that even with like Musk's best rockets, or even with the most advanced rockets known to man right now, we could probably only just get it into space, or more economically, we'd have to put it into space piece by piece, because there's just too much mass to lift into space.
So this would be the first telescope you'd have to actually assemble in orbit for it to work.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, well, actually, this goes back to something I was listening to. This changed my perspective, because there's always been this in STEM. There's this debate of what should we colonize first, the moon, then Mars, or like the moon, then Venus, because Venus has its reasons and all that. And I was listening to one of my favorite scientists, Fraser Cain, and he pointed out, he changed my perspective on this by pointing out a simple fact: gravity wells are for suckers. Okay, and for people who don't know what a gravity well is, it's just fancy science talk for the amount of energy you have to pay whatever you're standing on to get loose of its gravitational pull. Mm-hmm. So why would we build communities on these? I guess the moon valuable for helium-3 or hydrogen-3, whatever, for fusion fuel, but realistically, fuck the moon. I mean, fuck Venus and fuck Mars. It would be better to start building space-based atmospheres, space-based communities, mm-hmm. And then just sort of artificially gravitate them with spin gravity, quote unquote. I know it's not really gravity. People, please don't fillet me alive. Because if we go to Venus, or if we go to Mars, we're dealing with a gravity well. So every time we want to leave or take something there, we have to deal with another gravity well. And we just got free of a gravity well from Earth. And the other thing is, what do you get from Venus? It's about Earth's gravity, but you have to live in the clouds. What do you get from Mars? It's about Earth's day length, but we don't really know what that low gravity will do to us in the long term. But if we build space-based communities, sort of cylindrical space homes, you factor out both of those things, and you can adjust the day length to be however long you want. You can adjust the gravity to be whatever you want, and you can only have gravity in certain sections, whereas on a planet, you have to deal with gravity all the time. And the last most important point is that, and this is just pure cold calculus, planets are really inefficient for living space. Like, in terms of the amount of mass that they have and that you can actually live on, planets are about as efficient for living space as I don't know, crawling on your hands and knees is for transport compared to an airplane. It's just there's so much of the Earth that we can't use for living space naturally. It's just
okay. So
that's got me excited.
Right. So assuming we don't blow each other up because Trump DMs Kim some. Like, if Trump DMs Kim a couple of eggplant emojis, that's the declaration of war, I think, in 2025. Just like,
really?
Yeah, DMing someone like an eggplant emoji and then an explosion, that's declaring war. So, assuming that doesn't happen...
Oof, I've got to go delete some DMs now real quick.
But yeah, it's interesting to think about this stuff, actually, because I do see more recently there was a bit of an upset, or not an upset, but a... discovery that NASA did in terms of the effect of low gravity on human bodies over prolonged periods of time, because they've had people up on space stations, and I can't remember the specifics, but they basically boiled down to it was a lot worse than they thought it was. There was the effect that gravity had sort of on people's cells, not just the superstructure in their bodies, but their actual cells. So I read that, and the implication was that until we find a way to generate good artificial gravity in space, it is closer to like a health hazard than we'd like. So I just read that and I felt sad, and then I closed it. So I've edited that out of my memory already.
We can ask Alex Jones to ask the aliens how they deal with it.
Yeah, I think Alex Jones probably has the answer. So,
No, he says that there's a lab underneath the University of Texas that has the answer.
why Texas?
I because I don't know. I'll tweet Joe Rogan to ask Alex Jones why Texas.
Because just like I mean, like not Los Angeles, not New York, not like Virginia where the NSA is, like Texas. There's fuck all in Texas.
I don't know, dude. That's just like Alex Jones in that whole interview was just my life's completion coming true.
You can die happy now. You've seen Alex
Like
Jones.
listening to him lose his shit. He's like, "You're telling me you haven't seen this? They're sacrificing babies. Hillary Clinton is sacrificing babies." I was like, Jesus.
Wow. That, you know what? That is ridiculous. I kind of feel like I have to watch it now, but I mean, it's like you said, it's like 4 hours. Like I don't know if I can commit that
It's
kind of
just
time.
4 hours of Alex Jones being Alex Jones, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. He's like talking about. He's like, okay. What you need to realize is that they're bonding. They're bonding the cybernetics. We've made a pact with the interdimensional aliens already. We've made the pact already. It's just.
The thing is, like, okay, yes, he's a nutcase. But also, at the moment, that's the most plausible explanation for why the fuck things are the way they are. Like,
You know what? Actually, deep down, I want Alex Jones to be right.
yes,
Like, I want him to be right.
because it's like,
Everything will be so fantastical. Like, I want Alex Jones to be right.
I, you know what, that's the impulse where it's like life is confusing, and here's someone with an answer. It may not be the right answer, but if it feels good enough, it'll help you ground yourself intellectually in this confusing thing we call life. But also, sure, interdimensional aliens and cybernetics, I can almost believe that, because how else do you explain where we're going and what we're doing? Like, how do you explain CRISPR babies without aliens? Like, like at some point, it's like, okay, you may actually have an argument. Reality is so broken that Alex Jones might actually be partially right. That's where we are right now. That's insane.
He's like, I just love his conviction about it. He's like, you don't know, man. Them tech boys out in California, they take the drugs so that they can see the clockwork elves. I'm like, fuck yes,
But
Alex Jones.
But you know what? He's not wrong. I'm in. There's a couple of groups that I'm in with people who are experimenting and sharing notes on microdosing hallucinogenics to help them hold more complex ideas in their head when they're coding. That's a real fucking thing. So
Yeah,
he's not entirely wrong.
yeah.
Clockwork elves is a very interesting way to frame it, but he's not wrong. He's, like, you take a generation of kids, you put them in front of electronic devices, and you give them Ritalin. What do you think's going to happen? So it's like, that's the frustrating thing about it. It's like he has this partial view of reality, and then he has his own like insane shit that he sticks onto it.
Yeah, he like
But
land. He starts up. You know, like when they do those gymnastics floor routines and they flip and they're like, oh, this is getting good, and then they just don't quite stick the landing. That's Alex Jones. Like he just doesn't quite. Like he just goes off on a tangent and it's like, just out there.
yeah, but it's like, and I think I might have said this on the last show as well. We're now actually living in like the dystopia that science fiction writers warned us about like 20, 30 years ago. We do. It's like we have developers that live in virtual reality and take drugs to stave off certain things in their own psyche, and they lose all the ability to interact in the real world. That shit happens. You know,
Are you disparaging Whiskey Wotan's drinking habit?
no,
Is that what you do?
what I'm disparaging are the people that spend more time in virtual reality than real reality. That's part of the problem.
So us.
Not even us, because I'm pretty sure we can still tell reality apart. What little is left of reality, we can still distinguish from fiction. No, it's crazy. Like, just sort of where we are. I'm continually amazed that we're in a world that simultaneously keeps trying to make socialism happen, but also is going to change the physics of glass to make foldable phones work. And I'm like, how the fuck? isn't there like at the point where we sort of universally make progress and just like all of us agree? Like I thought we had all agreed that vaccination was a good thing. I swear to God, we put that one to bed. Like 50
Oh my
years ago.
God, yes, anti-vax.
And I'm just like, okay, great. Now we've got the internet and you can exchange any information you want to anyone in real time. It's a miracle. First fucking thing that happens, anti-vaccination. What? Guys,
Why?
Why?
Like, I think it's all like the new age granola that they're eating that makes him think that anti-vaccination is.
It's
Like,
I can't.
you know what?
Sorry,
It's just
there was a study that found a correlation between vaccines and autism. What they found that there was a high incidence of autism in kids that were not vaccinated. So they did find a link, just the other way around. And it's like, okay, guys, how much more evidence do you need? And the thing is, we've
again, would you rather your child be dead or have autism? Let's assume that vaccines 100% of the time cause autism. Would you rather your child be autistic or dead? Pick one.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird how that's even a choice we have to make because, like, I still, and maybe this is me, maybe this is my naivety meeting reality, and maybe it's always been this way, and I'm just learning about it now. But when I studied history in school, it was presented as a sort of thing of like, there's the past, there's the future, and we make progress, and you know these bad things happened, and then we built these good things to fix them. And once we fixed them, we agreed that this is how things will work from now on. And it's like, apparently that's not true. Apparently it's like, no, people will still believe any fucking thing that they want, regardless of the evidence. Like with the anti-vaxxer stuff, I mean, everyone knows that the doctor who produced the paper that created that claim had to like withdraw it, and the paper was refuted, and he was kicked out of the community. That should have been enough. In a rational or slightly more rational world, that would be enough. No, it turns out, like what I finally realized the other day, and maybe maybe Jacques Derrida was right, the postmodernist who studied communication and language, and maybe he was right because, and this isn't one of his things, but just the concept of there's the truth and there's the thing you say and the thing the other person hears, and there's like context in that communication. What I've realized is if somebody does something, publishes something, puts some information out on the web, and somebody consumes it, when they consume it, it becomes a thing that lives in their head, and they apply their own context to it, even if it's context that you did not intend to apply yourself. So it's why, like, you know, there's a couple of memes about how literature teachers will overestimate the importance of Edgar Allan Poe using a raven in a story. Maybe the guy just liked ravens, but you know the lit author will be like, the raven symbolizes the coming of death. No, bitch, I like ravens. That's all there is to it. So, you know, like, but like with everything. So, and I was like, that understanding makes sense now, because anti-vaxxers, it's not that they're making a rational decision. It's that they have a pre-existing hatred of the system, the government, the whatever, and they've got this bit of evidence that proves them right, and then no matter how much you try proving it wrong, because it doesn't change the way they feel, because it feels like they're being attacked, they just reject it. So there were actual people, when that scientist, Wallace or something, who published the paper, who then got knocked out for the autism thing, after the fact, I saw people defending it by saying that he was bribed to withdraw the paper, and even though he was fired, he was paid a huge amount of money, and that's why he's lying to us. Actually, the truth is real. Vaccines cause autism, but the scientists are lying to us, just like the lie about global warming. And then it's like, oh, fuck. And then, you know, that's where you end up. That's real. That's an actual defense people put together. And I'm like, it's like, okay, so you...
No, come on.
So we've basically defined a new level of intelligence, smart enough to assimilate information and smart enough to design contorted defenses of that information, but not smart enough to see a new perspective. Like, okay, and a whole lot of people live there, and, you know...
A very specific level of intelligence.
It's a very...
I'm just trying to compartmentalize them, just sort of grab onto the concept in my mind that somebody believes that they paid him to it. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They secretly paid him off to say that his research was fake, and he's actually being very well taken care of, even though he was kicked out. Like, that's the defense now. And it's just like...
Although,
What?
To be fair, we are living in the same world with the fucking Momo challenge, so there's that.
Tell us about the Momo challenge.
I wish that it didn't exist. Uh,
Yep.
for those of you who don't know, the Momo challenge is the latest in a fucking long line of. Can we just say dumbass internet challenges? Because that's what they are.
Please,
Like, that's what
yes.
they are.
This is like
And
a defining feature of our culture, is dumbass
it,
internet.
it,
Good.
okay, so the Momo challenge is based off of a sculpture by a Japanese artist called Mother Bird, and it started out as a creepypasta where you text or call this number, and Momo calls you back or texts you back or appears on your screen or whatever and tells you to kill yourself and compels children. So it's sort of a resurrection of the Blue Whale game.
Right.
So it compels you to kill yourself. And the reason it really took off is because apparently some girl in Brazil had Momo on her phone, and she then recently or very shortly afterwards died in apparent suicide after that. And so it's basically just correlation implies causation. Obviously, the whole Momo telling you to kill yourself obviously works on kids, and now we have a fucking epidemic of kid. Fucking Kim Kardashian was tweeting about it. It's like, please, parents, there's this. Oh, FYI, Kim Kardashian's now a responsible parent. But anyway, he's like, please, parents, there's this thing called and we all know Kardashians don't do things for attention. She was sending out this warning for I mean, no Kardashian's ever done anything for attention.
Right.
She was sending this with the best of intent out there. Anyway, she's like, please, parents, there's this thing called Momo that makes your kids kill themselves. Just please be aware of what they watch on YouTube and what. And FYI, they should be aware of what your kids are watching on YouTube anyway. But like the fact that people like Kim Kardashian are coming out, like, come on, please.
So, okay, just I want to attach something to the know what your kids are watching on YouTube. There's an article entitled "Something is Really Wrong on the Internet." I will link it to the description. It's a guy that goes through the videos targeting kids on YouTube and picks apart how disturbing they are. Well worth the read if your kids are watching YouTube. All I know about the Momo challenge is that two things happened. Number one, the FPB, the apartheid era government department so concerned about children on the internet, which is creepy, issued a bunch of warnings saying that, this is cyberbullying. And then like 2 days later, it turns out actually the hoax isn't even in South Africa or something like that. And it's like, okay, why the fuck is the FPB still a thing? I would like to table that for perpetual discussion.
See, that's something I wouldn't mind the EFF taking down.
Yeah.
Just tell them it's an apartheid era thing and they don't have to know the details. Yes, we have to take it down. It's an apartheid era thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not just saying that because I think it is. I'm saying it because it was formed by the government to regulate communication in the NP era when apartheid was in effect.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's get this trending. Let the EFF pick up on this so they can get rid of it.
Yeah, how do we trick the FPB into delivering a bunch of judgments against the EFF? Because then when they pick the fight, then the EFF will go back after them. So that's your homework, everyone, for next week. Tweet us at NoScriptShow how you will get the EFF and the FPB to engage in battle.
Yes. Hashtag FPB challenge. Also, I hate that I now say the word hashtag whatever in real conversations. Like, I feel disappointed in myself.
It's fine. There's a generation of people that actually say lol to mean LOL. So don't worry, you're not alone.
It's just, I look at myself in the mirror and I feel sad about what I've become.
Yeah, that's middle age. Well, actually, no, that comes later. Shit, we're still young. We are young. Didn't you know?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, so I don't know. I'm still. I'll be honest. I'm still stuck on the last week's thing about the fact that Nike released sneakers that you pair with your phone. I'm still stuck on that.
I've actually pushed it to the back of my mind so that it doesn't affect me anymore.
But what's interesting is that I looked into it some more, and there were some memes when the first version of it came out from the Back to the Future movie, like the second one, where the guy goes to the future and he puts on the jacket and the shoes and all kind of laces up by itself. And I saw that and thought, wow, that's really cool, but also it's so unnecessary. And now it's like, here we are. We have the tech. It's really cool, but it's so unnecessary.
I mean, yeah, we could just be using the same scientific concepts to get us to more. Can I highlight that as my personal bugbear real quick?
Do it.
I hate it when people do this, that they say we can put a man on the moon, but we can't, for example, make a
I've
car
got one.
that
I've got
lasts
one.
forever.
It's like
Huh?
we could put a man on the moon, but you can't play music on YouTube and then close the app.
I'm like, okay, here exactly that. I'm like, here's what's fundamentally wrong with that assertion. There is a concept called different disciplines of science. Okay, deploying atomic bombs and putting a man on the moon are arguably massive scientific achievements. Yet we could drop nukes long before we put men on the moon. Why? Because they have some similar facets of science to them, but they, for the most part, are very separate scientific disciplines. And certain disciplines of science do not advance at the same pace as everything else. So it's entirely possible that we can have some sort of tech before we have another sort of tech. A great example of that is the Fallout universe, where they have amazing nuclear technology, but they have really shitty fucking vacuum tube room filled computers because they have sucky microchips.
Yeah.
Okay, so just please, people, for my own sanity, stop saying that phrase. Okay, it makes you look dumb. Just stop it. Okay. And the next time you're at a braai, like you know what? Actually, shout out to Belleville Pete. Next time you're at a braai, you can point that out to somebody to make yourself above them. Just to
Yeah, it's the no, it's good. I mean, this concludes the Wotan rant session of the show.
yes.
No, but here's the thing. Like it was a meme that kind of kicked off years ago when The Matrix first came out, and there was like, like today, red pilling is a thing that's gaining traction, but before that,
So cringy, that phrase.
I know, it is.
I hate it so much. It's just...
But there was this concept where it's like, The Matrix came out, and it finally helped people kind of put a name and a face and a description to this concept of there are some people who understand how the world works, and there are some people who don't. And the ones that don't, they never really interrogate it. They just tend to assume that things happen because they happen, and you got to roll with it. For example, technological advancement. It's not inevitable. It looks inevitable if you don't understand how it works. It's like, wow, things change every year. It's not just a factor of nature. It's people putting time and effort and resources into developing certain things. If you want to know, if you want to know why we have better smartphones every year, but we don't have flying cars, it's because people spend more money on phones than they would spend on flying cars. I can actually
tell you exactly the biggest barrier to flying cars. I can tell you right
now.
Well, yes.
Other than people,
the biggest barrier is people. Air traffic controllers, right?
Yep.
The planes that are saturated in the air right now all fly along certain lanes and whatever. And we think once we have flying cars, imagine how many more planes will be in the air.
Yep.
And so we're not going to be easily able to keep track of that, and we're going to have collisions everywhere. This is where, and this is my technological bent, is where technologies like swarm intelligence come into play. Because if you've actually watched a swarm of locusts, your average locust isn't smarter than your average person. Jokes aside, seriously. But you never see in those millions of swarms of locusts that black out the sun, them really colliding with each other. And that's the sort of, on a high level, what I want to explain to people, that's kind of what we're trying to do with swarm intelligence is create a mobile ad hoc network of all these nodes that share this information. It's like when fish swim as one giant ball as well. It's a mobile network of all these nodes. And if we can master that through swarm intelligence, then we can we can make flying cars a much bigger reality than they are now.
And it's like, the thing is, look, what will happen is we'll nail self-driving cars, and then we'll nail flying cars, because you don't have to build more roads for the cars. You can pack more people into the same square foot, or the same square footage, to basically move them. And we will at some point probably hit a future where buildings at like the 5th and the 10th floors have parking lots for these self-driving flying cars.
Was it in the Star Wars movies, like on Coruscant, where you just see all those cars flying around in landing pads, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, look, we probably will get there, but it's one of those things where technology and also at the same time morality and law, they don't advance into the future at the same rate inevitably, right? It's things that have to be defended and fought for and understood, because there's memes out there of like Iraq in the 50s versus Iraq today, and like Iraq in the 50s was before the kind of the religious
swing in place, man, swing in place.
Yeah, it's like they were perfectly modern society, and then next thing the religious extremists take over, and now suddenly it's like they're back in the dark ages in the space of 50 years. Like it's progress is something that has to be fought for and defended every generation, because if you take it for granted, you lose it. And we're seeing that now. So anyway, the last thing I want to talk about, we're kind of at our time, but we do have to mention this just to prove that we're semi-paying attention. I'm going to say 2 words and you say the first thing that comes into your head.
Okay.
Brie Larson.
Captain Marvel tanked. She's single-handedly tanking. Yes, I'm so glad this is the last bit. That woman is I'm going to go on a 30-second rant. That woman is single-handedly tanking Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel wasn't that great of a character in the first place. For those of us like myself who are actually into comics, they've retconned her and redone her a bunch of times. Despite being an inherently powerful character, incredibly powerful character, she's not that popular of a character. Unlike Wolverine, who technically isn't that powerful, but is insanely popular. She's the opposite. And so it was already tough enough to launch her as a movie. Like to be honest, I think originally a lot of the people that were going to go because it's just part of the cinematic universe they're building. But now it's like, eh. And Brie Larson is tanking it. And no, it's not because males hate superhero movies about girls. Bullshit. Wonder Woman made a metric fuck ton of money. Yeah. Okay, it's because you, Brie Larson, are single-handedly shitting on the people that constitute the majority of the fan base for your character and the movies. When you get up on the podium and say, I don't care what white men have to say about Captain Marvel, I want to hear what women of color and black women and disabled women want to hear. Bullshit, Brie Larson. You're tanking the movie and it's dumb. I'm done.
So it's not that I care about Marvel movies that much, I will be honest. It's like that they're fun to watch, and I'm pretty sure, like, if they have the same special effects team and the same storyboard artists, they'll probably have a movie that's as visually impressive as, like, any other Avengers movie. But I have a feeling that it's going to come with this overtone of, like, ham-fisted social messaging that's just going to kind of destroy the whole being able to identify with the character thing. But in any case, the part that I am interested in is that, first of all, I don't know anything about this. All I know is that a whole bunch of people have a very negative opinion, and they've obviously made a whole bunch of YouTube videos about it. But then at some point in the last couple of days, YouTube made an algorithmic change where any search for Brie Larson it won't surface recommended videos based on your personal filter bubble. It will bias in favor of news articles, meaning that if you search for it, you get a page of results which are just kind of bland news clippings and not, people's personal reaction videos to it. And the problem is that looks like the number one change that they can make to kind of not suppress, but in a very real sense, suppress the discoverability of certain videos. And at the same time, Rotten Tomatoes, for the first time in history, it looks like they removed the public rating for the movie.
No.
Yep. If you look up Rotten Tomatoes Captain Marvel, I don't know if it's back, but there was a period where they actually had to remove the personal ratings for that one movie.
Holy shit, dude.
Yep. So it's like, I don't give a shit about the movie. What I'm interested in is how the tech companies are responding to the outrage by putting in algorithmic changes to manipulate the results. And I'm just like, okay, this is kind of disturbing. Obviously, the free market, being mostly white men, is not happy about this. But it's even more disturbing how these sites are counteracting it. So let me just check. Yeah,
that is insane. That's like a giant, like, I don't know, like a giant indicator, like, okay, we ourselves now acknowledge we're fucked. So let's try, sort of stem the bleeding, as it were.
Yeah. So and it's like, okay.
I'm not saying that actors aren't people and can't have opinions, by the way. I'm just saying that in this instance, your specific opinion, by fucking shitting on the people who make the majority of your moviegoers, is going to tank your movie. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it's such a simple concept. People pay money to see movies. It's a market, and the market will feel a certain way about what you're giving it. This is just how it works. You can't do $1 billion movie if nobody pays for it, right? So it's just like, if you want to hijack $1 billion movie and stick some messaging in there that only appeals to like 10% of your audience, you're going to lose viewers. This is not a patriarchal plot. This is not a sexist attack on this is just how markets work, you know? So anyway,
the market doesn't care who you are. That's the thing.
And so, like, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes right now for the Captain Marvel movie, their certified rating is 79%. Okay, their audience score is 52% of 26,000 reviews. But at one point, they were over 50,000 reviews, and they were all negative on Rotten Tomatoes. Oof. So basically, what they did was they waited for the storm to die out, and they went back and retroactively deleted a whole bunch. And it's like, okay, then.
But why? Everybody already knows now. Everybody already knows what she's been saying, and everybody knows how they feel about it. So I ask, how is what they're doing now, the tech companies, what they're doing now, going to help? I think it's already out there.
Yeah, it's like, it's not going to help. And the other thing that it does is, if you offer a service where you let anyone in the public deliver a rating and a comment to reflect how they feel about something, and then you delete their stuff because you don't think they're feeling the right way about it, you're delegitimizing yourself as a rating platform. Then it just becomes a joke. If you don't say the right things, then what's the point? So it's like, audience score 52%. I don't believe those are organic ratings.
That is bullshit.
Yeah. And it's like, again, this comes back to the people that don't understand reality and the people that take things for granted. You can't just put anything you want in a movie and expect people to pay to see it. That's not how it works. If you want to entertain people, you have to give them what they want, so that they give you what you want, which is the money and the attention. It's why Kim Kardashian, for some fucking reason, is so popular, okay? Because she gives people what they want.
I love that she's speaking about stuff.
Learn from the Academy of Kim Kardashian. She's the most vacuous person in history and also the most popular because she gives people what they want shamelessly. Okay, if you want your shit to be heard...
I mean, technically you're right. Like, I hate that you're right, but you are right. Like, she is, like, all of it.
It's like hate me all you want. I didn't make the rules. I'm just trying to understand them, you know? And here it is. So, anyway, all of that being said, I'm still going to go see it because I'm sure it'll be very well GFX'd and there'll be, like, awesome effects and maybe some cool battles. And maybe
I mean, look... And again, I already view all these Marvel movies through the lens of somebody who was actually into the comics before they became popular movies. So I'll always have my personal criticisms about it, but I'll also probably still see it.
Yeah.
Just because I have to leave my cave every now and then. So, yeah.
All right. I think that is a wrap from us for this week. Thanks very much for listening. You can find us on noscriptshow.com.
And on Twitter.
And on Twitter, @NoScriptShow. Send us some tweets.
We're very sorry about the election cycle, guys. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, we'll do our best to be an anti-political zone for the next couple of episodes.
It's not going to happen.
All right, peace out.
Peace.